Patrick Daly here, and welcome to episode number 12 of For the Week That's In It. So this week I read a very interesting article by Lorenzo Maili, and the article was titled What Will Life Be Like After Globalization, or something to that effect. So Maili's perspective was cultural, and he was talking about architecture in particular and what he had been seeing at the Venice Biennale 2023. And basically he was drawing attention to what he called the promise and perils of a fragmenting world. So in architecture, the Eurocentric universalism that has reigned supreme is breaking down. It's no longer supreme, if you like. And as he points out, at a cultural level, the universalist globalization is breaking down. And my view is that the exact same thing is happening in trade and business, and that this has huge implications for international supply chains and how they're conceived and how they're designed and managed. So the question is, how far will this fragmentation go? How long will the transition take from where we are now to wherever it is where we're headed? And what will things look like in the future in this life after globalization? And the fact is that nobody really knows. But in that not knowing, I guess, is a clue about how you as a supply chain strategist and decision maker need to be thinking about the future. You're going to be facing a challenge of working out how when you don't know how. And my own view is that it's not going to be so much life after globalization as some sort of a destination, but it's rather going to be life in a continuously mutating globalization, an ongoing process of change for as far out into the future as we can see. So how did we get here? Well, going back a bit, if you go back to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, China joining the WTO at that time, late 80s, early 90s, global trade began to grow spectacularly, and the US became the preeminent superpower both economically and geopolitically through the 90s and 2000s. This, if you like, was the golden age of economic globalization from the fall of the wall to the financial crash in 2007, 2008. And this enabled many spectacularly, and it raised hundreds of millions of people all over the world out of property in countries like China, which is now the second largest economy in the world, and also in India, which is now the fifth largest economy in the world, as well as in many other parts of Asia, Africa and Latin America. And these countries, often referred to as the global south, they now make up a greater proportion of the world GDP than ever before, something like 40%. So they matter, and big time. And these countries, at the same time, they're very diverse. They run the full gamut from fully fledged democracies to dictatorships. So they're not a political or economic bloc in any coherent sense. And they align their interests with others this way and that as suits them. So there are no neat camps here. They're not in America's corner. They're not in Europe's corner. They're not in China's corner. And this makes for very unpredictably shifting sands, tensions, confusion, and potential conflict. And you can see it in Brazil and India's reluctance to align with the West on the war in Ukraine, in the African nations' peace mission to Kyiv and St. Petersburg recently, in India's continuing to buy Russian oil while participating at the same time in a strategic security dialogue as part of the Quad, along with Japan, Australia and the US. So this is the world we now live in. It's complex, it's fragmented, and it's continuing to become more fragmented and complex. So the current supply chains that we operate are just not designed for this world. And that's why the smartest supply chain strategists and decision makers out there are rapidly redesigning and reconfiguring their supply chains. So the question is, are you? International supply chains are becoming shorter, they're becoming more regionalized, they're building in more redundancy, they're continuously evaluating risk, they're shifting the balance of priority between efficiency and security in favor of security. So flexibility, resilience, and the ability to turn on a sixpence really are paramount. So this, if you like, is life after globalization. It's here, or at least it's life after globalization as we have known it. So how are you preparing? That's all for this episode. See you back here next week for some more tips and insights on for the week that's in it. Take care.